Hello. Before we get into this video, can you do me a huge favor? I will love you forever. I already do. But can you sit through this video and just watch until the end? Just please. This video has been a week or two in the making, and I have re-recorded this video already. This is my 6th recording. No kidding. With no success. So I am hopeful that this time is the successful time. I feel good about it. It is true that the devil is in the details, and this devil doesn't want us to be healed. This video contains some liberating information that I have to share with you right from God that gives you the faith to dare to believe in yourself and in Him. Oh, I'm just getting goosebumps when I say that. I will be making a video commentary on the challenges that I faced in making this video, but until that is released, because there might be some challenges in making that video too, can you please just sit tight with me for about an hour or so? Just grab a coffee, a tea, a snack, and just do me the honor of watching this video. Thank you. Talking about this subject matter repeatedly for me has been so very helpful, as it's been liberating in more ways than I ever thought. And so I'm very excited to share this video with you today, as I'm sure you will gain something out of this too. So thank you for watching. Hindsight, they say, is 2020. Well, what does that even mean? Well, in this case of dealing with the aftermath of narcissism, this is your go-to mantra. It is what helps you to realize certain things about the relationship that you couldn't see when you were drowning in your life's flood of sacrifice and heartache. Finding a way how to live while enduring a narcissistic relationship is tragically difficult. And hindsight comes only at a time for you when you are ready. When you are ready to see that walking away is to your benefit. Walking away on your own comes at a time when you are strong enough in your healing to just walk away. When you have decided to walk away from the narcissist, you will see life from a different perspective. This is where hindsight kicks in. It's that pivotal point in your healing. Consider walking away as your rite of passage. And when you look back to reflect, you realize, oh, you've earned your freedom. These emotional stripes from you being the narcissist's verbal and physical whipping post has given you the right to walk away. And when you do, oh, you are ready. There's no going back. Oh, you will go through a grieving process that is natural. Because even though you are ready to leave, it's still gonna hurt. You will face challenges, but it is important not to focus on the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Don't make what you left unsaid as your focus, and don't ask yourself if your parting of the ways hurt them. Stay focused on you because you are your focus now. Stay focused because your positive hindsight is what you definitely need right now. When you walk away from the narcissist or the toxic relationship, you have to be ready. If you are not ready, you will return, and you will keep returning to that toxic relationship until something within you is healed and transcended. If you can't go back to the relationship, then another toxic one will find you, and they will keep finding you, and you will rinse and repeat that toxic merry-go-round, that roller coaster ride of mayhem and madness until you are finally ready to say, stop, no more, I'm done. When we are in toxic relationships, our wounds are so raw, they're so open, and they are so deep. We cannot see that we allow the wounds to remain open and fester. How this happens is we allow ourselves to be emotionally vulnerable to a narcissist who holds no heart space for us And we end up repeating unknowingly those familiar patterns that we knew in our childhood or when our first trauma began. Most of us do have hidden childhood trauma, and until it is addressed, the toxic relationships will keep following us everywhere. This moment that helped us to understand and properly define narcissism, this time in the narcissistic relationship, we're learning and we're growing. And this is a godsend for all of us. However, staying with the narcissist and allowing them to continually hurt us when we know we need to grow and when we know information but we can't apply it, this is just keeping us stuck as we continue to put all the blame on the narcissist. The narcissist is guilty, but it takes two to make and break a relationship. Our trauma and symptoms of abuse contribute to the unhealthy relationship. It's our responsibility to act better so we can do and be better. And the narcissist, they can't do that for us. They expose us, but if we don't allow that exposure to really allow us to see what is in us that needs to be changed, then all we're doing is continuing to be blinded to that need to change. And that's where the narcissist is then allowed to exploit us. In this movement of narcissism that is kind of like a coffee table term nowadays, it's my belief that we've been too busy blaming the narcissist. They are to blame, don't get me wrong. But the more I think about this in my own healing, the more I realize that I only had myself to blame for staying too long. I wasn't ready for the narcissist to leave, or I wasn't ready to pick myself up and walk out that door myself. I wasn't ready for the narcissist to leave. My trauma kept me bound, as it wasn't until I saw the narcissist for who they really were. And I needed to see the narcissist for who they really were, because that is when I could see my trauma for what I really was. And then when I gave myself permission to heal and do this on my own and not look to the narcissist to tell me I can do this, can do that, go seek out that help, go find this, go do this for yourself, go ride your bike today, go for a walk today, go find peace today. No, I did this all on my own. And I started distancing myself from the narcissist emotionally so that I could look at my own emotion and heal. I realized something. I realized that my ego, that me, myself, and I was only playing myself. My ego was leading me to believe I needed the narcissist, and we do. We need them to expose in us what we cannot see. But my emotions were rooted in that infantile victimization back in my childhood, as that trauma had me bound to every single narcissist I encountered in my present moment and in my future. I was conned into believing I wasn't free. And we're not until we see this, that the birdcage door is open. Until we realize that and realize what that really means, we'll never fly out to grab our freedom and take it. It's just like that elephant who is raised in captivity with a large chain around its big, huge foot, its big, huge baby foot. When it's an adult, the trainer can keep that chain on that big, huge elephant adult foot while detaching that chain from the wall. The trainer knows the elephant is free, but the elephant has the mindset that it is still attached to the chain that is attached to the wall. And so the elephant will never move its foot. It will stay in place. And it will never try to gain its freedom by testing the length of the chain it is bound to. The familiar patterns in our youth has us repeating the patterns in our adulthood. The patterns are like that chain attached to the wall. And we are responsible for that. We have to look to the chain. The narcissist represents that chain, and we have to look at the problem behavior the narcissist exposes in us so that we can follow that route of control and regain our freedom by creating a different mindset. By seeing that we are no longer bound to the past, that we can make our own decisions, we can set ourselves free. It's just a matter of seeing what we don't want to see. Now, I can't speak for you, and this video is not meant to cause offense. I can only share with you what I am willing to see in myself. It has taken me 10 years to see narcissism for what it really is. I didn't recognize my inner trauma. I didn't recognize my inner trauma until I began to really see the narcissist for who they really are. And it was extremely painful. Healing wasn't and isn't easy. I'm not where I want to be just quite yet, but I know I'm almost there. I can now admit that my emotions kept me stuck. My ego kept me trapped and grounded to the narcissist. My ego convinced me that I needed them, and that I convinced myself that the narcissist needed me. When in truth, we don't need the narcissist to get us unstuck out of our own heads. The rabbit hole is deep, my friends, and the deeper you go in, the more stuff you find out about the true nature of reality and yourself. They don't tell you this stuff in church, and the science is now just starting to come out that what you think about, you bring about. And the Bible talks about reaping and sowing. You truly are who you think you are. And your energy of what you think about yourself gets sown into this world and gets returned back to you stronger than when your thoughts left you. No one tells you that you befriend the enemy and sleep with the enemy to discover how you have become an enemy to yourself. There's a saying that the only way out is to go in. The only way to get out of the trauma and pain is to go into your heart and see the pain that you don't want to face. You have to be courageous enough to go through that door and face those challenges and feel those feelings, because that is the only way you can set yourself free. Every time we meet yet another narcissist, we're saying, yes, walk me down the path of pain so I can find my way out. Yeah. We don't realize this is what we're saying at first, but the more I progressed in my healing of my own pain, I would look at the narcissist and I would ask myself, do I really want to get into a relationship with them? What is it in me that I still need to learn that they can help me with? Is this relationship a means to help me grow and learn about me? I would knowingly then walk into that hellhole of darkness with the relationship with the narcissist and take the pain, even though it was painful to endure. At the end of the relationship, I could always reflect and go to God with my thoughts and my feelings and ask, okay, what area of this pain in my childhood trauma is this relationship with the narcissist addressing? When you approach God in that way, when you allow yourself to really see yourself as truly as how your pain sees you, the narcissist can show us the way. And they expose us to old historical feelings, but they cannot do the hard work for us. That we have to do all on our own. Once you realize that it wasn't the narcissist that locked that door you entered in together when you began the relationship, But that door has always been open and within eyesight the entire time, and that it was you creating your own stumbling blocks as you tried to make your way back to that open door. And those stumbling blocks are symptomatic behaviors of toxic narcissistic trauma. You stumbled over yourself. You have to get out of your own way, and you have to unstuck yourself by seeing how you have become your own hindrance. And we try to do this by trying to convince and change the narcissist. We try to convince them that we are not who they say we are. Well, this is a type of resistance. And whatever you resist persists. When you realize that all those stumbling blocks you and the narcissist created together, that push and pull dynamic, these were the godsends, as they were what enabled you to face the narcissist. When you can face the narcissist, you then can face yourself. And when you can face yourself, oh, you can face anything. When you face yourself, the challenges in life become obsolete. There's no need to prove anything to anyone, not even yourself. There's no need to invest your time and effort to gain anyone's approval. You accept who you are as you are enough. You accept where you've been, what you've done, where you're going, and you accept who you are to become. You accept yourself as ever evolving, ever growing, ever learning, and ever understanding. You understand yourself as you are surrounded by peace, as overcoming your inner battles lead you to peace as you become peace. Well, there's no kicking down that door off its hinges as you boldly walk out of the narcissistic relationship. You just take your exit, and that's enough. You leave with your dignity, and there is no more hiding. You know who the narcissist is, and now you know who you are. And you know who the narcissist is not. You want no part of that gameplay as your lessons are learned. There's no more hoping for escape, as now you are strong enough to walk out. And when you do, you don't look back. There's no regret. There's no remorse. There's no turning on yourself to think of the narcissist first and say, should I go back? Shouldn't I? Oh, what did I do? Oh my gosh, I'm such a silly person and I'm so stupid for leaving. No, when you leave, you are leaving because it's time to put you first. And finally, you make no apologies for that. You are taking back ownership of you. You are taking back your autonomy. There is no reconsideration to reconcile. There's no hesitation. You witness the final straw and you say your piece and say goodbye. And it's over. I mean, finally over. You can't go back. You can never go back because you can't go back, because if you did, you'd lose your self-respect. The toxic behavior has given you what you needed. Lessons to educate you, lessons to help you. And when you have had enough, there's no need to stick around. How can that be serving you? You've learned the ultimate lesson, my friend. You've learned self-respect. There's nothing more valuable in the world than you and your self-respect. The narcissist showed you that. Through their lack of respect for you, they showed you how you are, they showed you how they are unable to love you. With no respect, there is no love. With no love, there is no respect. And with these two key aspects missing in the relationship, you know that the narcissist holds no empathy for you. But now that you have time for yourself, and now that courage has returned to you, self-reflection follows. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today in this video. So please stick around as I have important information on self-reflection, on a self-reflective moment I had with God the other day that I'm really excited to share with you. Hello, my name is Shannon Gilmore, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today as today we continue to crush narcissism on its head by revealing to you the truth that you need to hear, because truth matters, because you matter. These videos are to help you step into your truth by exposing the lies that the narcissist keeps in attempts to keep us lying to ourselves as they desperately try to prevent us from becoming self-aware and self-reliant. In today's video, I would like to talk about self-reflection because hindsight, it's always 2020, and you can't always see your path to greatness until you gain a bit of distance, and with distance comes perspective. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We are almost to the point of making this channel go viral on YouTube with subscriptions and video watch time hours. So thank you. Wow, I'm impressed. I'm pleased. I'm so happy and so grateful. Thank you. But I'd like us to keep up the momentum by sharing our comments and suggestions with one another, as it is your contribution that can help brighten someone's day. You may be able to put a pep in someone's step and help them to hang on to just one more day. So thank you for contributing to this channel, to helping make this world a better place to live in. We need you, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Self-reflection is a little bit different than rumination. Rumination is defined as engaging in a repetitive negative thought that loops continuously in the mind without end or completion. The pattern can be distressing, difficult to stop, and unusual, and usually involves repeating a negative thought or trying to solve an evasive problem. And I believe this is why most of us go back to the toxic person repeatedly, because of these ruminating thoughts, because when we go back, those negative thoughts stop as problem solved. Self-reflection is the ability to witness and evaluate our own cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes. In psychology, the other terms used for self-reflection are self-observation, reflective awareness, reflective consciousness. In self-reflection, I believe we have one of two choices. We can take the high road, or we can take the low road. Taking the high road, well, that's always the best choice, but what does that look like? Well, I have a personal situation that I'd like to share with you that hopefully will be uplifting, as letting go, that's not always easy. Letting go of someone you love is extremely difficult. It's not easy to walk away from a friendship or any type of relationship. And when you do, it's because it's time to just let that shit go. Enough is enough. For me, a situation arose that let me let go. I was ready. I didn't know I was ready until the situation presented itself. Oh, it was ugly. I mean, I was triggered something fierce. And I tried to hide it and deal with it on my own. But when my friend, she didn't consult me or ask me really what was wrong. Well, she did. She asked me what was wrong, and I told her I needed some space. And she didn't accept that. She took the blame before I even said anything and told her that she was to blame. So my friend challenged me and wouldn't give me the space I needed as I asked for that space. red flag number one. And I was met with a response that I did not see coming. She made the situation about her and distanced herself from me because I was trying to figure out how to deal with my trauma and deal with my pain. And she made it all about her. I had seen this behavior in the past, but not like this. And my self-respect kicked in to say, oh, no, you don't. I thought I was responding in pride at first, and I was a little bit angry, but I quickly calmed down and allowed God to guide my thoughts. And I did not engage in sentimentality. I let my truth flow. And the more I began responding to this person, the more I realized, well, I'm taking my self-respect back and I'm putting up those healthy boundaries. I'm doing this for me, and I am no longer putting her first. I'm done tiptoeing around her and other people's feelings to sacrifice my own feelings. No more. I really was sure that I was standing in the gap for me, and there was no second guessing. I took that leap of faith for myself, and I'm glad I did. I needed to, and we all need to. When you get to the place of transcendence, where your historical trauma is no longer your weakness in your present, but now it is your strength, because you can move forward with the memories intact, but the feelings are no longer leading you into negative reactions. Well, this is when you give your inner child that voice to speak. You don't speak from confusion and emotional pain. You speak from a place that is within you that holds heart space only for you. And you allow that area to bravely, maturely, softly, boldly speak, as your courage encourages your inner child to speak in truth and say no. You allow you to stand up for you in your truth and integrity. And when you do, you are free as you say what you need to say, bravely and assertively, not rudely, and you walk away. That's self-dignity right there, my friends. When this happens for you, walking away is perfect timing, as walking away is needed, as we need to do this for ourselves. When the narcissistic ways of someone else no longer serve you, as they no longer cater to the wounds of your inner child, then it's time to walk away. In our childhood trauma, we were never the ones to walk away. Standing up for ourselves and telling our family members or people in position of power that they can't treat us like how they are, well, this just didn't happen. It couldn't happen. We were too young. We didn't understand. We weren't mature. And we weren't strong enough to fight. It isn't that we allowed them to get away with it. We were defenseless. There's a difference. Predators always prey upon the defenseless. Understand that. It's time for us to stop blaming ourselves and give the blame back and that shame back to the people who did this to us. Now, if we told our parents to stop hurting us when we were young, we would be scolded. So we stayed silent because we were defenseless. That's not our fault. Our parents preyed upon our little persons who couldn't defend. We couldn't defend. We didn't know how. We only knew how to endure the pain and cry it out. And this is what we're doing when we emotionally react to the narcissist. We're using our emotions, our infantile emotions, with our adult voice. So when we respond to the narcissist as we did when we were infants or youths, and we cry and we get frustrated, but we also respond with our adult voice to say, stop. There's an incongruence, there's a conflict within us. And that's why a positive shift doesn't happen, because we're chaotic inside. We're allowing the young, tender, little inner child react, and yet we're responding with our adult voices. It doesn't work. And so you have to get to a place where you have healed that inner child, where the inner child actually trusts your adult parenting with these boundaries of, no, Shannon, you can't let that person in. No, Shannon, you can't say so much to that person. They're still a stranger. No, Shannon, not everybody needs to know your business. No, Shannon, you had that chocolate bar when you were a child because you emotionally ate, but you're not that child anymore. You can make a proper, healthy decision for yourself now. So tell yourself no. If you really are hungry, grab an apple instead of that candy bar. That is what self-parenting looks like. And when you implement that, that helps you to transcend the childhood trauma. The people in positions of power held their power over us and used that against us. Instead of using their power and influence to nurture and guide our little beings, they manipulated and exploited us. And we need to heal from that. And we need to take our time in healing from that. So please don't let anyone tell you that your healing is taking too long, or you are talking about the narcissist and the damage that they caused way too much. Find people who will listen and who will hold heart space for you to help you let your emotions go. Talking is helpful. I believe narcissists do expose us to our inner child's pain if we're willing to look and really see. And if you see clearly who the narcissist represents historically for you and work out that inner emotion, when that door of opportunity for you, when you finally see it open, you will take that opportunity, as you are then able to stand up for yourself and honor yourself, again, in truth and holding your integrity. When it's time for you to walk away from your toxic relationship, you'll know there's no question. You may not know you know until the situation presents an opportunity, a final straw, so to speak, that leads you to stepping into your power and owning it. The situation lets you know that you are ready, and you take ownership of yourself in a way that says enough is enough is enough. You're done. You are done with the gaslighting. You are done with the apathetic gestures. You are done with the lectures. You're done with the eye rolling. You are done with being compared to. You are done being ignored. You are done with the gossip. You are done with the triangulation. You are done with the insults and the hidden innuendos. You're done with the passive aggression. You are done with your time and effort being manipulated, as you are tired of being let down, as you are tired of being treated like you are second best, as you are tired of treating this person the way that you want to be treated, and they don't see how well and kind you treat them. You are just tired of them taking you for granted, and you are tired of crying yourself to sleep at night, as you are tired of being frustrated with their lack of attention and effort. How does this serve you? This is now just a hindrance to you, so now you have no choice to let go. So here's my personal situation. Ten years ago, we had met when both she and I were facing challenges in our broken down marriages, and we supported each other as best as we could. She introduced me to narcissism and psychopathy. I had traveled up and down all throughout those rabbit holes, so I'm very thankful for her support and help. She helped me to learn to see narcissism for what it is. I will always be thankful to her for that. She also helped me to learn how to be a friend. But I made the error of believing that this friendship was a gift that would last forever. Well, yeah, it was a gift because every relationship is a learning experience that helps you grow. And I will never dismiss that. But lasting forever? Well, when the season is over and the lessons learned, you have to let go, my friends. You have to let people go so that they can be the people that they choose to be, not the people that you want or hope or see the potential that they could be. I couldn't see the problems in the relationship at first. Well, yes, I did. I chose to ignore those red flags. And let me say, had this breakup happened a year ago, I would have been fuming. I would have been so irate and so mad and aggressive. I mean, there are still moments upon reflection where I do feel angry, like, how dare that happened? How dare they say that to me? How dare? They didn't have a right. But you know what? Even though I feel that anger, and feeling feelings is healthy, turning to peace is healthier. And that means more to me now. And so it's easy to just let that shit go because I've walked away. You will find that upon reflection and hindsight, it's just not worth getting mad over. It really isn't. You're done. You're done using your heart space that is meant for you. You're done using that heart space for them. You're done giving your emotional power away. You know what they've done, and you know that they know too. So that's enough to never take them back. So when I began to see those red flags, I mean, really pay attention, when I no longer ignored them or to be blinded by them, oh yeah, the familiar feelings would well up inside me that had me feel threatened if I decided to stand up for myself. So I didn't. I thought if I stood up for myself, I would stand to lose my friendship. And I believe even now at that time, yeah, I would have. I believe I was right then, and I believe I'm right now. I wasn't ready to walk away from her back then. So I kept caving. I kept giving in. I kept sacrificing myself to maintain the friendship. But this last go round, I was ready to stand up for myself because I stood to lose my self-respect if I stayed silent. I was done. I was tired of dealing with the lack of attention to the friendship. I was tired of the apathy. I was tired of excusing bad behavior and suffering for it. I was tired of being put on the sidelines whenever she made a new friend. I was so used to dealing with this in romantic relationships, the ghosting, the stonewalling, the apathy. But never did I think in friendships that I had with women, I never thought this was possible. How could I be so blind? Well, I'm in the works of making a video on the difference between narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, entitled The Two Sides of the Same Coin. So watch out for that, because in doing that video, I answered my own question. And this video will answer some questions for you too. So understanding narcissistic tendencies against the narcissistic personality disorder, this actually helped me to understand how I was able to let that shit go when I should have stood up for myself, and I ignored all those red flags. It wasn't until after I said goodbye did God then open my eyes to really see. I had no idea that this friendship mirrored a relationship I had with my sister in my youth. I had been emotionally attached to my sister because of childhood trauma. She and I were 10 years apart, and there are memories of her, but they are fragmented. I have feelings intact, but the memories, I can't recall them. So for me, it was harder to see. And maybe you'll find this too, that it's harder for you and it takes longer to deal with that trauma and heal from it when you can't match the emotion to the memory. And because I couldn't see this for what it was, I just thought me and my female relationship, this was just a natural thing that you go through bumps and trials with female friendships. So walking away from me was not easy. I had a meltdown. I had a breakdown. I don't think I've ever been so emotionally distraught like that since the time I went through a deep betrayal 15 years ago. And I don't think we cry so hard like that. That type of crying and weeping and sobbing is something we do as little children. I was wailing. I was feeling like my heart was wrenching and squeezing and tearing in two all at once inside of me and being released out of my tears, and it was laying in front of me, thumping and pumping its life's blood out on the floor, open to me to see. And I had to watch myself dismantle in front of me. And that's when I finally woke up. I was shattered in two, and there was no way for my friend to help me pick up the pieces of this dysfunctional, defunct relationship. I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe, and I'm trying to assimilate and try to make sense of this all. And I'm trying to explain to her as best as I could, and all I was met with was cold-heartedness. And she was treating me like I was the animal dung on her shoe. And that's why I had to say goodbye. The lack of empathy to help nurture me and guide me and help walk me through this pain and just be there for me. I thought that's what sisters did, right? But that's not what I was used to. I was used to being abandoned. My friend and I are separated in age by 10 years, just like me and my sister. Why couldn't I see this? Why couldn't I see that this relationship mirrored the relationship I had with my sister? Because I saw what I wanted to see. Because I didn't want to revisit that hurt and pain. I didn't allow the facts to show me what I couldn't see and didn't want to see. Because hindsight, it's always 2020. I don't think I ever grieved the loss of my sister. And she and I share the same mother. And like I said, I have memories of some terrible things. And one of those things is a fight that my sister had with our mother. And one of those fights brought about my sister going to live with her dad. At a distance far from me, it was impossible for me in my tender age to ever see her again. So I would cry myself to sleep at night, hoping, wishing upon a star to see my sister again. I felt abandoned by her as this was natural. There was actually no goodbye. There was no hug. See you around, kid. I woke up the next day and she was just gone. I was brokenhearted, and I lived with that broken heart for years, for 10 years. And when this event happened, nobody explained to me that my sister was going to live with her dad, that she was not going to live with us anymore. My mom wasn't around. She abandoned me naturally with her alcoholism. So there was no one to help me explain what had just happened or why. It was just something that I had to deal with, and I had to deal with it alone. So the next few months I remained with our mother after my sister left. Well, those memories are horrible too. And then I was bounced from family home to foster homes. I didn't have time to react or grieve. So after 10 years, when I was 16, I did have a chance to see my sister again. And we didn't talk about anything of the past. No, we just moved ahead. And we seemed to get along. That is until I used my inner voice to stand up for myself. And so I can see this now, why I didn't stand up to my girlfriend. Because my sister didn't like to be challenged. And when I challenged her with saying, I'm 17, you're not my mother, she didn't like that. And so she distanced herself from me. I mean, really distanced. Instead of working it out with me, she had some horrible things to say to me, and she let me go. She abandoned me. She walked away from me again. And then 5 years later, when I had my twin daughters, I contacted my sister again. And we picked up where the relationship left off. We didn't really say sorry. And if we did, it was awkward. So we just moved forward in the relationship, and things seemed to be going well for a few months until I decided to grab the courage to confront my sister on something that happened to me, and I wanted to know if this was something that we could personally talk about. She denied what I had to say. She denied my feelings. She denied my truth and my experience and told me that I was mistaken, basically telling me I was lying. And that was the end of our relationship. She again abandoned me, and I dealt with that as I had always done. I've filled my heart space with doing things and concentrating on other people. So I didn't have to think about the pain. But pain comes out in other ways that hurt those you love. It's been almost 30 years since I have last talked to my sister, and I've never grieved the loss of her at those times. It was just something I accepted. The day I let my friendship go, I was blindsided, but I knew I had to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to look at the pain. I knew that this mirrored something of my past because I was triggered so deeply. I was weeping, I was sobbing, I was gasping for air. This was not a panic attack. This was deep sorrow. I had to do this for my inner child, for my adult person, and I also had to do this for my friend. I couldn't hold her responsible for the pains of my past anymore. I can't tell you why my friend stayed friends with me for so long as she did for 10 years, but we both did our best. And we both made an agreement that we would treat each other like sisters, and that we would fight for the relationship. And
we barely fought. And I think that's because we knew that when we fought, it would probably end. When I let my friend go, she didn't fight to stay, and I didn't really either. I mean, I tried my best to hang on by respectfully asking for space to work this out on my own, but the push that came back, that caused me to shove her back because of her lack of support, as she made the situation all about her, I knew. I was discarded, as she found someone new to replace me, as she had always done in the past. But this was more severe because this was now a love interest. And that was a shock. I wasn't surprised, but I convinced myself that she had learned from the past, from the last time I spoke about the same issue, but this time she was willing to let me go. And her ambivalence was just so surprising and just too much to take. I've learned enough about the severity of narcissism and the different complex B personalities and the comorbidity that I knew there was something going on here that was not nice. There was no heart space for me, and I needed heart space for me, and I had to do this for me. After all we've been through together, okay, we do have a long distance relationship because I'm in Canada and she's in the United States, but I'm telling you, this relationship, we talked every day, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day. We would call each other at any time of night. If she needed me emotionally, I was there for her. And she tried her best to be there for me. And during this time of me just feeling so wounded, I did reflect on that, and I thought, all of this time spent together had to matter, right? Well, let's us just revisit my sisterly relationship just for a moment, so you get a feel of what the underpinnings of trauma and how it related to this dissolving of this relationship. How this looks like for you. My sister, she had to look after me, as she was not the mothering type. She was told to look after me, and her being 14, 15 years old, and I'm 5 years old, well, I can understand now that I was a thorn in her side. My sister, she was bold and independent, and I can see how she was envious of me. And she was the rebellious type. I get it. She resented me, and it showed, and she took that resentment out on me when our mother wasn't around. I don't have memories of my sister that are healthy, let me tell you. So looking back in hindsight, how my relationship with my sister mirrored my relationship with my friend, well, I see the similarities. And these similarities, when you're ready to look at them, they're meant to help heal your pain. You will see how God uses the individual. And I am grateful, but it still hurts. Someone who calls you a sister, who can't be there for you like a sister, we both do not know the healthy side of sistering. So I get that. When we met over the course of 10 years, we tried. We tried our best. I get it. I still miss my friend, and I will always miss her and always love her, but I don't have to like her behavior, and I don't have to put up with it. I have to think of me now. She is not responsible to take care of my feelings, and she is not responsible to take on responsibility for me. I never wanted her to put herself in that category. I just wanted the closeness that sisters have. The positive influence to cause us to be better people, to be encouraging, like just because people don't understand your behavior doesn't mean that they have a right to belittle it. Doesn't give them a right to shame you and compare you. And for me, that's not what sisterhood is about. Sisterhood is about, yes, fighting and picking out each other's flaws, but also saying, how can I help you to do better? What do you need to do for yourself? Like, I'm seeing this, that you're not doing this for yourself. Why is that a challenge for you, Shannon? I was just coming at this situation with a need and an expectation. And those needs were not fulfilled, and that expectation was too high because I couldn't be a friend to myself. And this relationship taught me how to be a friend to myself. That's what narcissists teach you. Toxic relationships teach you how you need to be a friend to yourself. Because when you can give to yourself what you want and need from other people, what you think about, you bring about. You know what you want in positive influence in people, so be that to yourself first. And that causes positive people that you need and want around you to flock to you. Because we all need empathetic people as our soul family, and they're coming. So the other day when I went for a walk, it's been going on, well, at the time of me going for the walk and having reflection, it was 2 weeks, but now it's going on 3 weeks in parting of the ways with my friend. And back then, at that day, I was filling up my time with doing things, projects. And so I didn't really have time to think and reflect. And I knew going to this park, that's what God was asking of me. He didn't have to say it. I just knew. So I found myself alone, isolated at a park, and I was on the swing. And there was just me and Jesus. And I blurted out, I know I should talk about her. It's hard to speak when you already know what I'm going to say, Lord. And so I just ended up saying, bless her, Lord. I truly hope she's happy, and I mean that, even now. Bless her friends and her family and her endeavors. I miss her, but I want her to be happy. Now, as I swung on the swing, I noticed two fir trees in front of me. One was completely dead, while the other was green and full and lush. They were like twin trees. And I really just looked at them. And I heard the voice of God speak. One had to die so that the other could live. I then looked to the ground and I saw how their root system must have intertwined, as they were probably planted about 5-6 feet apart from each other. And I imagined how when it rained, how the one root system sucked up all the water while the other root system barely had any water to thrive. That's when I heard the relationship had to die so that you could survive. Wow, that was sobering and humbling. I thought about the reason for things going down as they did between her and I. Then I thought of my sister. I thought how she was part of the reasons of me feeling abandoned as a child. And my sister, in her attitude towards me and her maltreatment of me, she caused some of these feelings of abandonment and being emotionally afraid. And all those years that I was in contact with her, she did nothing to rectify those feelings of abandonment and fear. So I took a deep breath and said, okay, God, I don't want to cry. I want to be strong for you, Jesus. I want to be strong like you. So then immediately he shared this with me. You have to be comfortable at just being. You have to be comfortable at not being noticed. Who knows you are here on this swing? Who knows you're here on this playground? Well, no one knows I'm here, God, except for you and me. But that I can naturally accept because I don't need to be noticed in this moment. I don't really want to. It's just I'm taking personal time. I'm taking quiet time. This moment isn't for people to notice me. And God said this. Well, no moment is. That's not why you make the best of the moments you have. I stopped swinging and began to really look around as I was surrounded by trees and meadow. It was a beautiful park. And I said, God, it's okay, really. It's okay that no one knows I'm here. It really is. I am okay with the moment just being me and you, God. I don't need to show anyone that I'm here. And Jesus spoke to me again as he immediately gave me some thoughts about what I do in this world and for whom. Your achievements in life do not define you, Shannon. This world is so busy at doing to gain something. I'm not concerned with doing. I'm concerned with being. Be because you can be. Now, I just did a video a few weeks ago on spiritual abundance opposed to abundance in the world. So I understood what God was saying about being, about spiritually just being and spiritually just giving and spiritually just being, the state of being of love. But I gave this more thought as he directed my thoughts and continued in his teaching. You are not a good writer because of book sales. You are not a good counselor because people are positively affected by your words. You are good at these things because you can be good at these things. Oh, suddenly my thoughts went back to my friend, as my last parting words to her was that I was upset and I held this in because she did not ever support my endeavors. She never shared in my successful publications or my successful YouTube videos or any things, any counseling and any insights that I was given or any encouragement that I gave other people. She never shared in the glory of that with me. She never championed for my success. But instead, she had a way to pick out my flaws in my books, my grammatical errors, and instead of encouraging me, she had a way of covertly discouraging me in my videos by saying that my voice puts her to sleep at night when she listens to my videos as she's going to sleep. She can pay attention to other people's videos, but why not mine? And this caused distance between us and made me not want to turn to her to share in my successes or my joy or my conflicts that I had. And she knew this, and it hurt, and it put a wedge in between us as she could feel the distance. So I understand why she distanced herself from me this last time. But God also showed me that at the time of meeting my friend, my book sales were on the rise. I was a frequent contributor on Blog Talk Radio. I was being interviewed by scientists and by people who needed and wanted the information and the content that I had to share through my experiences. My career in counseling was beginning to get off the ground. But when I met my friend, I made her my focus as she covertly and passive aggressively caused me to make my focus on her and not on me. I inadvertently centered my life around her needs, and I began to neglect myself. And when I neglected myself, I neglected my public. I am so very sorry. I am sorry that I was not there for you. I'm here now for myself and for you. I laid aside my vocation to help her as I made myself available to her at any given time. Then when she slighted my work, as I tried to include her in my work with narcissism, as her and I were learning together, and she was involved in Bible study too, I thought we could do this together. But she showed little interest, and I allowed her disapproval to convince me that I wasn't worthy of these things that I wanted to do, that I felt compelled to do as they were gifts from God. I felt if she didn't approve, that meant that I wasn't good enough. And then she began to lead me off of social media, and I stopped ministering to others and helping them. I didn't see that I gave her authority over my life. I did this. I'm responsible. That's on me. And I allowed her to convince me. And I allowed her to control me. I wanted approval of my sister. I wanted approval of my sister through my friend. And I was so tired of hearing, "Oh, you are so much healthier than me. You're such a better Christian than me. I'm not a good friend to you. I don't feel like I measure up." When I heard all of this, I made excuses because I thought if she could just see who I really am, she would put those fears to rest. I'm not in competition with her. So why would she say that? If I just continue to be better, if I continue to just help her, she'll change. I was so tired of being made to feel less than, because the more I gave to her, the more she gave of me. The more she gave to me herself, her true nature, that was hurting me further. I was so tired of being made to feel like I didn't measure up to her. And I was starting to feel ashamed for being better and doing better and transitioning my pain from healing from narcissism. So I let my life crumble to pieces without realizing this is what I had done. This is what we do in romantic relationships. We do this in family toxic relationships. So friendships should be no different. So when I began to reflect on the memories of my sister and how my life had been growing up as I was put in a room with the door closed, with no one to talk to, no one to play with, no TV, no radio, no one paid attention to me. This was my normal. My mom did this, and my sister saw my mom do it. So when my sister looked after me, she did this too. So God then interrupted my thoughts. Your worth does not come from people finding you worthy. Your value is not because people value you. All these things you have gone through was to help you find worthiness and value in yourself first on your own, because you can. Because you can, that makes you are. Because you can be a writer, you are a writer. Because you can counsel, you are a counselor. Because you can be a friend, you are a friend. Because you can be love, you are love. You don't need to do to be. Because you can do, you automatically are. That's where belief in yourself and belief in God is. You believe in yourself because you can. Can is an innate nature within you. This takes me back to when my son was 2 years old and I was still spoon feeding him. And all of a sudden, when he hit the age of 2, he was so independent. He was asking why. He wanted to know how things worked. He was just so inquisitive. Oh, this was the time where he ran me off my feet. But it was so beautiful because I remember one day at the table, I was spoon feeding him and he said, "Mommy, I can do." And I'm just like, "No, I'll do it." And he's like, "Mommy, I can do. Let me do. I can do, Mommy." And I'm like, "Okay, here you go." And you know what? He did. He didn't get food all over his face. I mean, a little bit, but the reason why I didn't want him to do, because I thought he would spill the food all over the floor and he would slop it on his bib and he would just make a mess. No. He had been through this enough times with repetitive motion. He knew enough to put the spoon to his mouth. He knew where it went. He knew where food was supposed to go. In the mouth, not up the nose, not in the ear, not on the floor. I can do, Mommy. I can do it. And he did it. And that's what God is trying to show us in this video that I'm sharing with you today. I'm so moved. I'm so empowered. I feel so much joy right now. I'm so happy for all of us in this moment because we can. We don't need anybody's approval because we know. This knowing is deeper than a conviction. This knowing is an innate, inherent nature in us because we can. That means we do. And because we do, we are. These gifts are natural to you that God has gifted you. Whatever you can, you do because you are. God said, "These gifts are natural to you as I gave them to you because they are who I am and you are mine. I approve of you and that's all you need. I approve of myself and I am in you and you are in me, so we are one. You approve of yourself, that means you approve of me, God who is in you." Now, God's also said, "I can give, so I am a giver," meaning him. He can give, so he becomes a giver. And he said this, "You can give, so you become a giver." We, us and God, are not separate. Now, the trauma had a reason. It's to get you to face yourself, to accept yourself, so that you can reunite yourself to God, so that you and God can become one. And because we can be one, we are one with him. So then I got to thinking about a deep spiritual teaching to become nothing and everything all at once. This is a method that is used in meditation. I can be everything and I can be nothing. I choose what I want to do. When we become everything and nothing, there is no ego, and then there is nothing to prove. That's what God was trying to show me in this moments of clarity. Because love is all or nothing. Love is all and nothing. Love doesn't need to prove. Love doesn't need to prove anything to the receiver. It just is. Because it can be. Love can, so it is. When you can, there's nothing stopping you. Can is free from ego. See, ego is rooted in fear. When you can't, you're limited. You're in fear. When you can, you're limitless. I've been in search of approval my whole life because approval means that I am worthy. And because you share in this too. We all do. Rejection and abandonment convince us that if we are not seen, we are not heard. And if we are not heard, we don't exist. We don't exist, as this is what God shared with me as I continued to swing. That being alone and having people notice us, that encourages us to prove of our existence. So when God said be alone, when God said be okay with being alone, be okay with not having anybody know you're here. You don't need people to validate who you are, because if you don't like being alone, there's a difference between being alone and lonely. Being alone helps you to deal with the loneliness, because being alone helps you to be one with yourself and with God. And if you're one with yourself and God, you're never alone. You're never lonely. But it's this fear and abandonment issues that we have within ourselves that says we can't be alone, because if we're alone, that must mean that we're rejected and we're abandoned. And if that happens, then we don't exist. And to feel like we exist, that lets us know we're alive. Then Jesus told me, be okay with just existing. What? He said, you don't have to exist to exist. I thought of how we treat God. Oh my gosh. There's some people who ignore God and they shun him, yet he still exists. So he doesn't have to exist to exist. We don't have to exist to exist, meaning that we don't need to exist for everybody to exist in the here and now. I'm sitting in front of a camera right now talking to you before you're watching this. I don't know who you are, but I know you exist. I believe you do. You and I may never meet. We may never speak. I hope we do. But we may never speak. But just because I never see you does not mean that I don't believe you exist, or does not mean that I believe you don't exist. Does that make sense? When God had me sitting in the park, I was alone, but yet I existed. But I don't have to exist in other people's minds, hearts, and in their lives to exist. I'm self-aware. I exist for me. I exist for God. I don't exist for anybody else. And that's okay, because I don't need anybody else's approval to say, hey, you're in my life, you're my friend, therefore you exist. No. I can be everybody's friend and I can be nobody's friend at the same time. Be everything and nothing. And that's where you find peace. The ego is where fear is. You can't fear what you know. And if you know what it's like to feel abandoned, but you don't know what it feels like to not exist because you exist, well, then what are we really fighting? We're fighting something that can never be. We're fighting something that just can't happen. God caused us to exist. This is what he said to me. He said, I caused you to be. We can, in his eyes, in his mind, before we're born, we're the concept of can. Oh, I can make Shannon. I can make Donna. I can make Timothy. I can make the little boy or a girl down the street. I can make people. I can make humanity. So I will cause them to be. Does this make sense? I know this is a little deep and this is going deeper than I wanted, but my gosh, this is just like mind-blowing insight here. This is inspiring and uplifting. This is who our God is. Thank you, Jesus. Because do you know that your life is a miracle? No matter what you're going through right now, you beat the odds of conception and the birthing process. The odds of you seeing the light of day are 1 in 400 trillion. God did that. The life that was in your father's sperm beat the odds and fertilized your mother's egg to produce you. That life is God. You are a living miracle. God can, and he did, by creating you and me, and he exists in you and me. The fact that we are alive means that we beat the odds, and because we have gifts that no one else can do like us, they don't do like we do. We can, and so we do. We share because we can, because that is how Jesus operates. There is a scripture that shares with us a story of a man who asked Jesus, Lord, if you're willing. And Jesus responded, why do you ask if I'm willing? And the reason why Jesus asked that is Jesus can, because it is who he is. He is a giver, and so he can give, and so he will give. We can, because it is in our nature, so we will do. We don't need anyone's approval or authority. We have God's authority living in us. We were created from heaven above, and that is always enough. So, as I was concluding the write-up for this commentary, I asked God, what is the difference between us, who have been the targets and victims of narcissistic personality disorder, and the narcissists themselves, since both of us people types have suffered from fear, abandonment, and rejection. So God shared this with me. And this ties everything in together. The narcissist is an obscure individual. Their heart is one of darkness. And in Hebrew, that is the word choshek. Now, to give you a sideline note, the choshek nature in the beginning of Scripture, in Genesis, where the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless, and darkness hovered over the surface of the deep. Something to that effect. I might be mushing that up. Please forgive me. Darkness in this context is a spiritual directive. And when you look at this word darkness in Hebrew, it's choshek. Choshek. And it means everything opposite of what is God, what is light, or OWR. Hoshek means darkness, evil, decay, death, sickness, obscurity. Do you know what obscurity means? It means not discovered or known about, uncertain. Ooh. I've mentioned this about the narcissistic personality disorder types, how they are suffering from obscurity and how they're trying to cover that up. And this is what we and the narcissists face when we are challenged with facing our own abandonment and rejection issues. We're facing obscurity, not mattering, being uncertain, not being known or discovered. And in this time of reflection, as I sat on the swing, this is what God was bringing to my attention in a roundabout way. He was having me face these abandonment and rejection issues that I had inside of myself. God then explained the concept like this. We learn from the narcissist to transcend our obscurity that we feel inside of us through the trauma by facing our abandonment and rejection so that we can accept it. Accepting abandonment and rejection leads to our transcending obscurity. Now, narcissists cannot accept obscurity. They will always fight it by fighting it on the outside of themselves instead of looking inwardly. If they looked inwardly, they would see that they are not obscure because they're here, they're present. If they were mindfully aware, they would understand that we don't need other people around us. We can assume, because the reality of it is, this moment that I'm talking to you in my kitchen. This is my own little world right now. Me and my camera, me and you. But outside of my kitchen, looking out the window, I see the backyard. The backyard's empty and it's surrounded by a fence. Do I know that other people are in their backyards? If they are they paying attention to me? Do they know that Shannon is down in the basement suite talking to unknown people through her camera? Do they care? No. Do I care? No. Does it matter? No. Does it matter that the neighbor after neighbor after neighbor after neighbor is focused on themselves and not me? And you bridge that out to 7 billion people on the planet. Right now, there is just me. Right now, there is just you in this moment. A narcissist is not satisfied with that, because when you're in your moment of solitude and in your self-awareness, we transcend the trauma so that we can have peace within. The narcissist doesn't have peace within. When you have peace within and you're okay with yourself, whether you're going through trauma, whether it's healed or not, you still have moments of peace. This is why a narcissist has to fill up their quiet time with noise. This is why they always have to be doing. This is why they're always spontaneous, because they can't just relax and they can't be quiet in these moments that they have to themselves because they're obscure. And they have to face that obscurity and they can't. The narcissist cannot look within to heal the issue. And because they can't see what they can't see, they can't know what they can't know. And because of this, they will forever be unknowing, unchangeable, to change for the better. We can change from being the feeling of obscurity to the state of love because we can. See, we're not obscure by nature. This is the point. And when we endure childhood trauma, someone else's obscurity is forced upon us. I talked about this in another video as well, about detaching yourself from the forceful emotions that your parents or people in positions of power put on you in your youth. They put on you their anger. They put on you their fear. And when you understand that you naturally absorb, when you're developing in your mother's womb, you naturally absorb the environment around you, the emotional environment, and you take that on and you assume that those are your feelings. And when you can understand and give back those feelings to where they came from, as they don't belong to you, you transcend obscurity. And so narcissists, even in our adulthood, they are forcing their obscure nature and emotion on us, and we have to deal with it. Or we assume we take on the responsibility. We actually take on the responsibility, because that's not who we are. We transcend the feeling of obscurity. We were never born with obscurity, but we transcend the feeling that was forced upon us. Does this make sense? And when we let go of those negative feelings, then we become the state of being of love, because we already are. So we can, because we already are. The narcissist cannot do this, so they don't. Instead of them taking on the feelings of obscurity, they project that onto us. Toxic behaviors can teach us to see the toxic behaviors in ourselves. Hindsight is always 2020. And it turns out that the woman whom I called my friend and who I kept close to me like a sister for 10 years was teaching me how to be a friend and a sister to myself. When the time came for me to say goodbye, I wasn't contemplating at how my life had changed. That came after. I was met with toxic behavior that I had never seen before. Well, yes, I did, but this level of toxicity that had reached its apex, I had never seen it so severe. And I couldn't continue to be the sacrificial lamb unto myself, so I had to stand in the gap for me. I surprised myself, and I am proud of myself. I'm still sad, and I'm healing, and that's okay. But I'm proud of the inner work that I've done, and now I can get back to me, and I can get back to the work that I do for you. Writing books, selling books, coaching, counseling, being a friend to you as you have been a friend to me. And I like this. I like that we can, so we are, because we go and do. Notice that conviction when you tell yourself or someone that you can do it. It's an automatic belief. It's amazing. Go talk to yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. It's amazing. I am proud and humble of who I am and the achievements that I have made, and I embrace all of me, my strengths and my weaknesses, my good qualities and my not so good qualities. We're all works in progress. If I am who I am and that rubs others wrong, well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay because I don't need anyone's approval. My truth isn't for everyone, and that's okay. I'm just sharing with you because hopefully you see the benefit of inner work. Not everybody does. It's important to work on inner parenting, that inner child. Give your inner being the nurturing you never received as a child. Let your inner child know that it's okay to cry and it's okay to feel, to release the pain. Let yourself believe that your voice is what matters now, and that life happens for you, not to you. I am so thankful for the friend that God gifted me. I am so thankful in this moment. I'm so thankful to be able to talk to you. I'm so thankful of the books that I've written and the counseling that I've done. I'm so thankful because all of this has helped me to grow to be a better person, as this has helped to make the world a better place, as we've all learned and grown together through this. The people in your life who cause you pain, well, there is a lesson in that if you're willing to look at it. They were sent to you to confront you with who they are so that you can finally see who you are. You are a loving being and you deserve good things in your life. So never take this life for granted. Know that you can and you will get through the struggle. When it's time for you to walk away, you can and you will. And you will walk away with your head held high with no regrets, and you will never look back. Just bless the person. Bless them because they have been a gift in your life as they exposed you to tragedy, in your trauma, and you keep moving forward as you now have your life to rebuild so that you can go and do and be for other people, to be that example, to help them to go and be and do because they can. Your gifts that you expand on, that you go and do in this world, help other people see that they have gifts in them, and you inspire them to be all that they can be because you inspire them to see the can that they are. So this is what I wanted to share with you in my personal story. As I slowly allowed myself to respond to the covert narcissistic tendencies that undershadowed my desires to be accepted. It wasn't until I worked out my desires to be accepted that I could finally see the toxic relationship for what it really was, as God addressed some key points in my transcendence, as He showed me that when we allow the trauma to heal, we then see the world differently as we accept ourselves, and that is the ultimate lesson learned. Until we learn to accept ourselves, we will always be fighting people on the outside of us who will never accept us, as we assume that this is where healing is because we assume that this is where the problems are. The problems are within, and to escape the trauma, one has to go within to get out. So I hope that this video has been value to you as it has been to me. So thank you so very much for allowing me to do these videos, as your presence helps me to go and be and do because I can. And you are a wonderful individual and you have a lot of love to give. You can be that love that you need others to be for you. Be that for yourself, and you will witness life give to you so much more possibilities than you ever thought were possible. As always, thank you for watching and take good care of yourselves and each other. Be blessed.